One stock, one business, one kind of mini country on its own, though, Alex Coffey. Apple analysts don't expect to slow too much. I mean, we've heard a lot of the bullish notes out. Is there anyone arguing that Apple's incoming sales period is going to reflect some of this economic slowness?
There is, Oliver. Barclays this morning is throwing a little bit of cold water on the recent optimism.
Wow.
We're seeing channel checks from Barclays suggest that the China data is a little bit worse than expected due to some of the macro pressure and the consumer spend there, suggesting that the overall unit orders for all of Apple is down 5% versus last year, with 4% lower Pro mix on a year-over-year basis as well, suggesting underperformance of that iPhone 15 Pro. What I found very interesting from this, though, is even Barclays, which is not that optimistic now on their iPhone sale projections, says equal weight with a price target of 167. And so I look at Apple right now at 177. And I don't want to draw too many conclusions here, Oliver, but that's $10 lower. I know it's a dividend-paying stock, but there might be a macro read-through from Barclays as well if they're saying they want exposure to a name they think is going to be $10 lower a year from now.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Apple's taking it in stride, though. Little change today. I mean, I guess when you line them up against each other, the list of bulls is quite a bit longer than doubters and bears, right?
Goldman doing its best to offset that. I thought this was interesting. I'm not sure that the kind of logic behind or kind of the deep dive done by Goldman is as, I guess, difficult to do. Basically, they looked out online and said if you want to order some of these phones, they went from being available on the launch date to now in excess of 8 weeks down the line, suggesting that, hey, that initial supply, they've already sold that. So their only kind of risk they see is supply chain constraints weighing on the amount of demand for these new phones. So a very different sentiment. They actually didn't change their buy rating or their price target, leaving that at 216. So a little bit more of an optimistic viewpoint from Goldman. And then also, just to kind of make things more interesting, Evercore went ahead and updated their note as well. Didn't even talk about iPhones in the headlines that I see, rather talking a little bit more about the Google trial that isn't expecting a verdict until early 2024 and its antitrust litigation. Talks about kind of the risks that Apple will have from that payment they received from Google, making Google the search. The primary default search option for Safari. But they also talked about, if some of this potential negative risk does take place, it makes Safari and the iOS ecosystem an even more strategic asset in this search space if it becomes increasingly more competitive. They leave an outperform in 210. So no iPhone talk there, but I thought sort of there's risks, but it could be positive, sort of lukewarm report. But then you look at their rating, you look at their price target, still optimistic on Apple.
All right. Okay. So right now, generally, there's a lot of 200s plus targets that are out there, definitely helping keep a bid into the optimistic tone around this. And after a couple weeks of softness in the stock, it has kind of stabilized here. It hasn't quite broken down because if you pull back and look at where we were at the highs from 2021, we're holding basically right at there. The 2021 high was around this 170-ish area. So we're trying to hold the old high as new support, which would be pretty huge technically. Any breakage from here, though, arguably would reverse the big almost year-long rally we've been in this stock. So we definitely got to be keyed into any potential missteps here on the acceptance and excitement around those phones. I appreciate it, Alex. Thanks for the heads up here. Not all perfectly bullish in the analyst community for Apple, with the note from Barclays there, signaling that maybe there could be some cracks in the thesis.